My name is Eriko Sase. I teach and research health and human rights and bioethics at the University of Tokyo in Japan and at the Georgetown University in the United States. I've just conducted some interviews with end-of-life care experts in Japan this month and last month, so I'm excited to share about some of the narratives on how people die and how people think of death in Japan. And second, I will draw an analysis of three perspectives. Finally, I will present how the government and individuals address the issues. Japan is the world's most advanced aging society, with 28% of the population aged 65 years and older. For comparison, United Kingdom has 17%. The founders of Japanese hospices learned from the United Kingdom. Currently, there are over 400 hospices in Japan. And here are some narratives of my interviewees, the experts of end-of-life care. Some have nearly 40 years of experience. The number of the patients of these experts exceeds tens of thousands. A medical doctor said at a Christian hospice, "I encountered many cases that the pain of troubling the people surrounding them seemed greater than that of death itself. They say, I would rather die and free my family from this trouble." Another medical doctor, oncologist, said, "My male patient replied, 'Please ask my wife,' when I raised the conversation where he wanted to spend the last stage of his life. I don't think that the older generation have a sense of individuality or decision-making." A monk at Buddhist hospice said, "In general, Japanese people worship at temples and shrines, but it doesn't mean that they have a specific religion and accept death. People say that they become non-existential after death. It's all over." Now I will present three perspectives on today's situations in Japan as these voices showed. First, from a human rights perspective, already installed universal health coverage and long-term care insurance, availability, accessibility, acceptability, and quality of healthcare and medicine was realized to some degree. However, in terms of end-of-life care, hospice care and palliative care have been expanded, but not yet reached universality in Japan. Second, regarding perspective of bioethics, respect for autonomy among biomedical ethics have been difficult to achieve in Japan. A survey found that over 70% of respondents want to die at home. This trend agrees with other studies. 94% said they want to spend the end of life where they want to be. At the same time, over 60% said, "I do not want to burden others." And a social change. There are 60% of the household where older people living by themselves. This is completely reversed from the 1980s, when over 50% lived with their children. With all these conditions, over 75 Japanese die at institutions. Traditionally, 90% of deaths occurred at home in the 1950s in Japan. In the mid-1970s, the institutional deaths exceeded the home death. The cost of aging society is expensive. The 2019 budget is record high of £6.9 billion. In 2030, 1.6 million deaths per year is expected in Japan. That's over 4,000 deaths a day. To shift from institutional death to home death, the Japanese government addressed policies and changed laws to transform to care by society, to let the Japanese design their own life and realize patients' wishes in end-of-life care. Now, Turning to palliative care perspective, there are very few specialists on spiritual pain, whereas physical pain and psychological pain has been addressed. Japanese hold various beliefs, while majority think death is a natural course. For instance, 77% believe that they will just disappear after their death. That contradicts 65% believe that deceased ancestors watch over them. In Japan, Shinto and Buddhism are two major religions. Regarding end-of-life care, there is no law on advanced care planning or death with dignity. Given such conditions, individuals address their own end-of-life planning, such as writing an ending note, writing a will, or deciding about the grave, partly because the cost of funeral is extremely high. The average of one funeral is £13,000. It's £13,000. As we have seen, and as my teacher of medical anthropology writes, medical technology involves different individual values and social value systems. Law, public policy, and guidelines in end-of-life care need to fit Japanese customs and their views of death and dying. For our common aim, respect as a whole person, as my interviewees say, I assimilate myself with the patient. Like a friend, I care for my patients. Mutuality, we both give and receive. Thank you very much.